Hey guys, welcome back. I am gonna go over, I guess, my origin story, if you will. This will probably be my most personal post. It'll probably be the hardest post, and hopefully, I don't offend anybody out there, but this is just my life from my perspective. So, once again, welcome to Parappa Legend. I'm Nate, and this is my origin story. In 1979, I was born at Altus Air Force Base in Altus, Oklahoma. My dad was in the military, he was in the Air Force. My mom at the time was a stay at home mom, I guess. Not really sure. What I do know though, at about 11 months, her and I were in New York. She called my dad and said, "I'm leaving. Don't try to stop me. I can't do this. Out." So dad comes back, tries to talk her out of it. Not happening. So I end up staying in New York while my dad finished his military and college. He graduated from the University of Oklahoma. He realized that it was just him and me at that point, and he had to go to college to make sure that we would be okay. Now, while he was in junior college, he met someone. Funny enough, when I found my bio, let's call her Sandy. We'll call her Sandy just so I don't offend her or embarrass her by any horrible decisions she's made in her younger years. So, Sandy tells me that she used to stalk my dad afterwards and go up to Rose State and watch him, and she would see him with some brown-haired girl all the time. She told me she was so close to jumping out of the car and beating her up and giving her what for and whatever. Fortunately, she didn't, because that ended up being my mom. Years go by, I'm 6 years old, my dad remarries that woman, and she is my mom. That's who I refer to my mom. Sandy is just some lady that birthed me. I appreciate that, but I've spoken to her maybe twice in my life. I've seen her, not counting birth, obviously, maybe once. So I do have a half brother and half sister that I am in full contact with. Lenny, love you, girl. Everybody else on that side, I don't know. So I choose to keep her at arm's length. But anyway, that's beside the point. Let's continue forward. So my dad remarries, and my mom's from Oklahoma. She's not going to move to New York, so we move here to Moore. We lived there a few years, and my mom's parents lived out in the country. We ended up seeing a house out there, or my parents ended up seeing a house out there they liked. They bought it. To this day, it's actually this house. I bought it from them 6-7 years, or my wife and I bought it from them 6-7 years ago. So I grew up in this house that you're kind of looking at right now. Now, my younger years were tough. I don't want to say too tough. I mean, you have to realize my mom was 25, 26 years old, never had a kid, never been around kids, and now all of a sudden she is a mother to a 6-year-old. I can only imagine how tough that must have been. But it was tough on me too. There was a lot of finger pointing, a lot of lectures. It was just an interesting childhood. You know, I wouldn't ask for another one because I'm loved. They both love me. But there was just a lot of trying times. Now, when I was, I'd say 13, for whatever reason, I turned teenager, lost my mind, and let's just say I did some pretty bad stuff. Bad enough for my parents to take me out of the school that I was in and put me into a Catholic school. Now, at first, I was upset. Did not want to do it, didn't care for it. But once I got to the new school, it was okay. I enjoyed it. I met new people, met friends, and it gave me a chance to kind of reinvent myself. Change from the person that I was to the person that I want to be. So that was my plan. Everything was going great my freshman year there. I had to sit out 6 months before I could play basketball because transferring schools. So, the last couple weeks of practice, we're at practice and I'm doing these calisthenics. They're called high knees, where you bring your knees up to your chest. Every time I would do that, I would get these severe headaches in the back of my head. Didn't know why, didn't know what it was. Thought it was a growing pain because that's what my mom always said. Oh, it's growing pains. They're just growing pains. So, my parents, we just kind of pushed it on the rug. Well, the day before I was supposed to play my first basketball game, I went to see a neurologist. He gave me an MRI, and which has never happened before. I got the results that day and was forced into surgery the next day, which was my birthday. I had a brain tumor wrapped around my brainstem. They said about like that. In another 2 weeks, I would have been dead. Another week, chances are I've been paralyzed from the neck down. I was freaking out. More so that I was going to miss the game that night, but I was freaking out. My parents, my grandparents, they were in shambles. They didn't know what to do, which I can only imagine being a father myself. So I'll never forget, my parents took me and got a Walkman. Kids, Google it. If you don't know, Google it. So I could listen to my CDs while I was in recovery. And that was my birthday present. So went into surgery, in, out, boom, bang. They got it out. Doctors are high-fiving each other. Great time. They did great job. So within, I'm not kidding, 2-3 weeks, I was up walking the neighborhood, no neck brace on, running, playing. I even got to play in the last game of the season in basketball. Things were starting to look better. I was getting stronger. I was doing better in school. I was feeling better about myself. Right about that time, that summer, I want to say it was either my grandparents' anniversary or my grandfather's birthday. One or the other. We went to Florida. I remember jumping in the water, hopping out of the water, and I couldn't feel any of the cold on the whole left side of my body. From about here down was completely numb. Didn't know why. I told my dad, and he said, don't worry about it. When we get back, we'll go see the doctor. Probably not a big deal. Might be just something residual from your other surgery. It wasn't. We went back to the doctor, got an MRI, and had a tiny tumor. I'm talking tiny tumor between my T7 and T8 on my spine. The doctors told each other this shouldn't be a problem. We'll get in, we'll get out, we'll get it, knock it out. We see it. Well, I think it was like 12 hours went by. They came out. I remember my dad saying they looked like they had just got done playing 2 full basketball games. They were completely gassed. I remember waking up and not being able to move anything. And that in itself is the scariest feeling. People have asked me, what's it like to be paralyzed? How is it, what's it feel like? And I always tell them, take your hand and try to move your fingers with your mind. Don't move them like this. Move them with your mind. Just stare them as hard as you can and try to move your fingers with your mind. That's what it's like being paralyzed, because obviously you can't unless you're a Marvel superhero or something. So I went through that. I was in that hospital for 2-3 weeks before I got to come home. And what's funny, first surgery, my birthday. Second surgery, 4th of July. So I did get to see the fireworks on top of St. Anthony's parking garage. So that was pretty neat. Aside from that, there was nothing else neat about this. Everything else was horrible and stressful, and you name it, it was it. So I got to go home. My grandparents in Florida, they came down to kind of watch over me while my parents went to work because I couldn't do much for myself. I was pretty much relying on everybody else to do almost everything for me. Now, it wasn't very long before my big toe started moving, and then my foot started moving. and I realized I would get my walking back. How much? Who knows? You know, if looking back on it, I feel if I would have worked harder, I maybe would have gotten more back in my legs. But who knows? I mean, it's who knows? Only God knows at this point. But fortunately, I did get about 30% back in my right leg, just enough to kind of walk around with my cane, AFO, and so on and so forth. So that was in high school. When I came back from that, I was in a really, really dark place. I completely lost baseball. I completely lost myself. I didn't know who I was without my athletic ability. I definitely didn't know who I was in a wheelchair. That just wasn't anything I was used to. I spent a year with my dad rebuilding a 74 VW Bug that was done, and then I had surgery and I couldn't drive it. So I sat there and looked at my custom vehicle that my dad and I worked hard on to get to drive, and I didn't get to drive it. When I finally did get to drive it about a year later, when I was good enough to go, about 2 weeks after getting to drive it, I'm heading back from the doctor's office. Bam! I get rear-ended on the highway, completely totals out my bug. It was a tough high school year. You know, some people would say, man, that's bad luck. I think God was just thumping me, telling me, you know, straighten up, and I wasn't. I was determined to do my own thing. I was determined to see how much I could drink, see how much I could party. At that point, I didn't see any use for school, for anything. You know, I was bound and determined to drink or party myself to death. I mean, to be completely honest. And that didn't change until I met my wife, honestly. Once I met her, I was 25, and it was almost instant. I realized why I was here, what I need to be here for, and who I need to be here for. I loved my parents, and I would never commit suicide back then. I would never give anybody else my problems or have them deal with what stupidity I may have brought upon. So I just, you know, parents, you want to make them happy, but they weren't what I needed to pull myself out of my own hole. Honestly, my wife was it. I wanted to be better. I wanted to do better for her because I knew I saw a future with her. And I was right. I got better. I started doing better. I quit drinking. I quit doing the drugs. I quit doing all of it. And as it is right now, my son turns 18 today. My wife and I have been together almost 20 years. And I am sober now almost 13 years of narcotics and everything like that. So it's been a long, tough ride. And I hope that it gets a little easier. I mean, it might not. If it doesn't, so be it. I'll beat that too. This mental health thing that I'm going through is really causing me problems, more so than I've ever had to deal with. When I was learning to walk again and when I was learning to do those things, that was a physical thing. Physically, I have no problems. Mentally, it's a whole different ballgame. Well, look who decided to join us. Want to say hi, Louie? You want to say hi? No? All right. He's going to go sit down, I guess. But yeah, it's been tough, but like I said, I just need to learn how to cope with this, and I think I'll be okay. But I tell you what, guys, I appreciate you guys even just spending the time to watch these videos. I mean, like I said before, it was strictly more for me to get out there and just try to get used to the talking to people again and not being so dreadful of everything. But then I think it might help others too that are going through it. So I thank you for taking your time watching these videos. And for that, if you do like it, subscribe, hit the like button. go to Paraplegion on my Instagram, DM me your address, and I'll send you a free gift. On top of that, if you're in Poshmark, if you go to Katlynn's Closet, Katlinh, and you put hashtag Paraplegion, you'll receive an additional 20% off and discount shipping. So hop on over to Poshmark, take a look at that, and maybe you'll find something that likes you over there. But once again, guys, thank you for your time. I really appreciate that. Once again, subscribe, send me your information, and I'll send you a cool gift. Take care. God bless.